Alright folks, we hit 2 years with the HomePods. That's right, if you go back to February 9th of 2018, you'll see me unboxing 3 HomePods, all of which I still have, by the way. In that video, I said I would sell my Google Home Max to pay for one of them. Never happened. I thought someone would pay a lot more for it. No one ever wanted to pay anything for the Home Max, so we still have one. And of course, I'm working from home now, so I have 2 HomePods on my desk, 1 HomePod in the living room, and I thought it would be interesting to kind of revisit where they are today, how much has changed, how much hasn't really changed, and talk about the current state of the product. So let's begin. Well, what things really haven't changed that much with the HomePod? I think one is to say that the sound quality is still absolutely excellent. In comparison to the sound quality I can get from other smart speakers out there, the HomePod is definitely one of the best. Google Home Max, I think, can overall get much louder, but it gets very quickly to the point where it's so loud that it cannot hear you. And given this is a device that is very much controlled via your voice, being able to hear you and stop playing or change the music when you ask it to is very, very important, which is a detail I don't think many should gloss over, because we also have an Amazon Echo device in the bathroom. I don't know why we put it in the bathroom. We just had a speaker in every other room, but we basically have access to the 3 major digital assistants. Sadly, we have no Bixby speaker yet. Come on, Samsung, where's my barbecue? But having used 3 of them pretty regularly, okay? Anytime we're in the kitchen or setting a timer, wanting to listen to music or anything like that, we use the Home Max. Anytime I'm in here or anytime we're in the living room, I want to control the lights for my videos. All, for the most part, goes through the HomePod. Most of our smart home stuff is connected through Siri, so I can say, turn off the lights, and the lights will go off just like that, and whenever I'm ready to record, I can say, tech video, and there you have it. So between all the different assistants, I have to say the HomePods are probably the best at registering when I want Siri to respond. Even if she's playing something somewhat loud, it's actually quite crazy that with very, very loud volume, I can still call out to her and she can hear me and stop playing or change the lights or whatever I need her to do. I know some people may think of this as a small detail, as like, okay, big whoop, she can hear you well. But when there's no display, really, I mean, there's a little screen on top, but for the most part, that's like 99% of your interaction with the device. I never change the actual volume on the HomePod itself. I do it almost completely with voice, and making sure you hear me when I'm talking to you is very, very important. It would be like a smartphone saying that, well, the touchscreen works most of the time. Sometimes, you know, the touchscreen stops responding, but for the most part, it gets the job done. You know, that would be a big detail with a smartphone, so that's why knowing when I'm talking to her and knowing when to listen is somewhat important. I, of course, have the stereo pair on my desk, and even though they're not really that visible and they're kind of behind my monitors, the HomePods have a very impressive way of being able to fill any room with audio, even if they're in very crowded or cramped places. So while I don't have, you know, a direct line of sight of the HomePods, they still fill the room up very, very loudly with audio, and given their size, it's super impressive that they can fill rooms despite being in such a very compact form factor. So I appreciate that part of it. They've given it some software updates in time. One of the more recent ones is Handoff, which I thought was kind of interesting. So we do have a HomePod in the living room. This is probably the only one I do this with, but if for whatever reason I don't want to use my voice, maybe I'm tired, maybe I am not fully awake yet, and I just want to start playing music off my phone to the HomePod, instead of going to AirPlay settings and selecting the HomePod as the audio output signal, I can just hover my phone over the HomePod and it will instantly start playing on the HomePod, which, gimmicky, I mean, yeah, you can do it from the phone yourself and not have to get up or anything, but sometimes if I'm just entering the room and I want to play music off that speaker, and I don't know, I want it to be a little bit futuristic, it's just kind of cool that you can tap it on the top and boom, audio starts playing out of that, or podcasts works with that as well. And of course, the HomePod has gotten better at registering when I am requesting a personal request versus when someone else is doing it. So if we have guests over and they tried to do something on the HomePod, it can register that that's not my voice. We don't have like a big family here, so there's not personalized requests per user, but I appreciate that it knows me via my voice, which I know other speakers do. But HomePod wasn't great at that at first. Now it's getting a lot better. And let's talk briefly about the price point. So originally when these things came out, they were $350. Now Apple has officially lowered the price to $300, which is not a temporary, you know, Black Friday sale or anything. And I think it's because I know these things aren't selling well. I by no means am trying to say that just because it's a good product, that means that it's a popular one. It really isn't, for a multitude of reasons. But to be fair, they do go on sale a lot. And if you go to Certified Refurbished, you can usually find them for around $250. I've seen them on sale as low as $200, which is far far more reasonable than that original $350 price point. But I think the main reason these things haven't taken off is, for one, it is quite expensive and it is quite loud and it is very, very powerful audio that most people don't need in the home. You know, some bigger houses or people with more disposable income, yeah, they could look at a HomePod and say, yeah, that's not going to cost us too much. Let's just put one of those in the kitchen. But for the most part, a lot of people who need smart speakers and that kind of thing are sometimes in dorm rooms or in bedrooms and apartments or confined places where you can't really blast music that much without getting in trouble. And the most popular smart speakers, of course, are the cheap ones. In fact, I've ran some polls in the past and found that the Amazon Echo devices and Google Home Minis that are so popular, majority of the time people are getting them either on sale or even more commonly for free included with some other service. Like Spotify Premium was allowing people to claim a Google Home Mini just for free included with that subscription. In fact, we got our Amazon Echo through our home insurance plan. So just by paying for home insurance, which we had to do anyway, they were like, hey, have a free Amazon Echo device. And the more and more stories I checked with people about where they got their Amazon Echo or their Google Home Mini, they found them on sale significantly cheaper than retail, or they got one for free included with another product they were buying or some service they were subscribed to. So those are the most popular ones. And of course, the HomePod is barely bundled with anything. It may have happened once or twice, but I never recall any type of subscription service or product being sold on some carrier's website that was like, hey, pick up an iPhone, get a free HomePod. We're just gonna throw that in. No, that never really happens. And it's absolutely overkill, to simplify it really, is it's not a speaker segment that a lot of people really need. And I've talked about in the past why I think that the HomePod from a sales perspective is quite a failure, because it's really focusing on audio quality and trying to appeal to audio professionals, but it doesn't really work for them very much because its connectivity is so limited. With how you set up and connect to the HomePod, it's very simple and juvenile and meant for normies and the masses to do it, you know? I can hover my phone over it to get music to start playing on it, or I have to go through AirPlay because still in 2020, the HomePods, while they have Bluetooth technology, they don't support you just connecting with standard Bluetooth, which means that, yeah, if you have Android, you cannot communicate with the HomePod whatsoever. It's absolutely an iOS exclusive type device, and as I've brought up in my reviews in the past, the HomePod is like a love letter to the Apple sheep family, because obviously Siri built in by default only really works with Apple Music. You can't switch it out with other streaming platforms, and you can AirPlay other streaming services to it, but honestly, if you're a hardcore Spotify fan, are you really buying the HomePod? We know they're not gonna do that. It's clearly meant to be an incentive, you know, it's a hardware product, but it's really meant to sell Apple Music for more people, and I can't say it doesn't work, because I'm really happy with Apple Music. I've tried out Spotify Premium before, and it's fine, there's nothing really wrong with it, it's just there's no real significant advantage to it that I can't already get with Apple Music, and the fact that Apple Music works so well with my HomePods is kind of a good incentive. It's like, hey, why would I switch when what I got going for me right now is working already? So can't do a video on the HomePod without bringing up the limitations of Siri. I know in the tech community we like to act like digital assistants are everything, and since Siri cannot answer as many questions as the Google Assistant, therefore the product is stupid, where I disagree. I think the primary purpose for smart speakers for a lot of people may vary. So for some of you, if you just want a digital assistant that can answer lots of random questions you have throughout the day, or want to simplify that process of Googling stuff, then yeah, Google Home Mini fits that need well. But from an audio perspective, it doesn't sound great. I mean, it gets the job done, don't get me wrong. Like if you just need something to play music and you want it to sound slightly better than your smartphone speaker, then yeah, it gets the job done. But Apple wasn't trying to do that. They were trying to make something that sounded really high quality and really was across the board great with audio performance, especially in that compact size. Then that's what the HomePod delivered on. Siri is obviously not very great at answering questions. She can do some stuff, and whatever I need a digital assistant to do, she's pretty good at, because I'm not the type of person that randomly needs to Google stuff. I'm not talking with digital assistants for that purpose. Usually it's because I'm texting someone or setting a timer or asking her to play a podcast or music, and it's hands-free, so I still enjoy it, but that's what Siri's good at for me. The other reason I feel like the HomePod probably is not that successful is that Siri is kind of a big part of it, given you have to interact with her to use the device, and we have Siri on so many devices as it is. You know, if you want to do smart home stuff, you have Siri control on your watch, on your phone, or even AirPods, even the Mac, if some people still do that. But Siri is not a hard to access digital assistant, whereas there's a lot of iOS users or people that don't necessarily have a device that can manage the Google Assistant very well, so just buying a dedicated speaker and that is their access to the Google Assistant makes a lot of sense, and that's why Google sells those things at a loss so much, because they want people using their search engine, and that's through their digital assistant, so the more people using it, the better. It doesn't matter if we lose money on this product. So since Siri is so accessible in the first place, you know, her intelligence is not going to be a good motivator for people to spend this much money on a product. They definitely leaned way more into the audio performance with it, and I enjoy it. I am happy to say I still use them every single day, but I completely understand and realize that these are not products meant for everyone, and if I wasn't a tech reviewer and I wasn't a YouTuber, I probably would not have bought them. You know, it's a new product category from Apple. I'm the Apple sheep, so I gotta talk about them and I gotta talk about my experience with them, but if you do have the money for them and this use case does seem to fit into your personal life, they make sense. You know, I can understand why a lot of people enjoy them, but by no means do I think that they should be popular, or I would even recommend them to that many people. There's very few people I would say, you know what, you need to pick up a HomePod. If you just want a smart speaker to mess around with, go with a Google Home Mini or go with an Amazon Echo. But then of course there's that whole debate of privacy, which a lot of people have issues with, and Siri does not have a squeaky clean record on, but I think it's a much better record than Amazon or Google's history with privacy. So that's why I still believe that Apple could save the HomePod line by making some type of cheaper, more reasonable, probably $99 HomePod Mini that still does all the same stuff the HomePod does, just doesn't sound as great. Okay, I think that some people don't blare their HomePods all the time or need them to be a stereo pair. They just want a digital assistant that has an emphasis on security and privacy and works with their Apple HomeKit stuff and acts, you know, as like a home hub for your smart bulbs and all that kind of thing. There's still a market for it. There were some earlier rumors of it last year, but they've all kind of gone quiet. So I hope Apple's working on something, but yeah, 2 years later, still very much enjoying them. I do plan on keeping them. I really don't have a reason to sell them or get rid of them because I listen to podcasts on them. They sound great, and listen to a ton of music on them, and I love being able to connect all three together so I can just have music coming out of all the speakers in the house and they can all still hear me as soon as I need them to stop. I can just tell her to stop and she does it very, very well. So that's the advantages she has. You guys all know the limitations of the HomePod. I don't need to repeat them to you. But what did you expect? I'm the Apple sheep. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter or join my Discord over here and let me know when you're expecting the HomePod to get a slow feed button. This is your Apple sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.